The following is a presentation of the Matt Talk Podcast Network.
You are now tuned into the PA Power Podcast, College Edition, featuring Mason Beckman and Tristan Warner. PA Power Wrestling. Pennsylvania is wrestling.
Welcome in, wrestling fans. You are now dialed into the PA Power College Podcast. And as Jason Bryan of the Matt Talk Podcast Network said, I'm Tristan Warner, joined by my main man, as always, Mason Beckman, a.k.a. Beck Diggity. Mason, what are we on now? Episode 10?
Yeah, we're in double digits, man. Moving up in the world. I thought for sure that we would have been canceled by now, but much to my surprise, we haven't been. So things are going well. I'm going to chalk that up as a W. I'm through the roof excited. Super 32s this weekend. I'm all jacked up, ready to go. Wrestling season is, I know we've been saying that the last few podcasts, but this is like the kickoff. We've got Super 32 this weekend, the All-Star Duel next weekend, and then things just really start to roll, man. So it's that time of year again.
No greater way to see that the college season is underway as well, as now you see some of the intra-squad results are coming in. I know just yesterday I was looking on Twitter, I saw Old Dominion was having their intra-squad match. First time I haven't been a part of it, or at least been there for it in 7 years. So hard to believe that the college season is already in full swing and competition is already getting underway, even if it is just a exhibition Wrestle-Off type match. But the matches are underway.
Yeah, did you wrestle in your Wrestle-Off every year, like the public one?
I did. All 5 years, yep.
You know what's crazy is in my 5 years, I only wrestled in that thing once.
Well, you know what that says? You were better than me, because they protect the good guys. They don't want them to get hurt. But the guys like me, they throw out there no matter what. Coming off a torn pec, still going out there to wrestle.
No, it was my true freshman year. I was the only 25. So first semester, my true freshman year, I wrestled 25 and then moved up to 33 the second half of the year. But at the time, there were only two of us. We only had three guys between the first two weights. So I was our 25 and the other two wrestled off for 33. So I didn't have anyone to wrestle off. The next year, my redshirt year, normally they have red shirts wrestling it anyway, just to get them out in front of the crowd. But that was the year, I forget what hurricane it was, but it completely knocked power out in Bethlehem. And it was the week of Wrestle-Off. So we just did them in the room. There was never a public Wrestle-Off. Then the next 3 years, all 3 years, it's the same reason Darian's not wrestling in this year's public Wrestle-Off, because all 3 years I was getting ready for the All-Star Duel. So I'm sorry. My third year I did wrestling. That was the 1 year I did. And then my fifth year, the All-Star Duel was 3 days after Wrestle-Offs. So I didn't wrestle in either one of those. So yeah.
Not to bring up a sore subject, but we talked about it on one of the previous episodes. Didn't you lose?
Yeah, my fifth year. That was an in-room one.
Okay, in-room. I didn't know that. I just saw the results on the internet, and I couldn't believe what I was reading, but thought it had to be a mistake. But okay, so at least it wasn't public. You spared yourself some public shame. And public shaming.
Yes, there. Without question. The other thing too, and this is a topic that always gets blown out of proportion, and I think you'll probably agree with this. The guys you wrestle in the room every night, it is way harder. It's way harder.
Oh, absolutely. You wrestle a guy in practice every day for 10, 20 minutes, and he knows exactly what you're going to do. So even some of the best guys in the country go out in the Wrestle-Off. If they don't lose, sometimes it's a 1 or 2 point match just because.
Yeah, so
you're so.
I mean, that's not a knock on, any of the quote unquote, say the lesser known guys that beat higher profile starters or higher profile guys in Wrestle-Offs, but I think those results get blown way out of proportion. And I don't say that because it happened to me. I've always thought that, whether it's the results were tight or whatever, people read way too much into Wrestle-Offs, and then they start to get into the season, and within a month or two, one guy's ranked fifth, fourth, fifth, whatever in the country. And the other guy may not be having a bad year, but it very quickly becomes evident as to why one guy's putting the singlet on for duels and one guy's not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. The Wrestle-Off is more for just to shake the cobwebs out and get out in front of people.
Yeah, and I think what a lot of people don't understand, if you've never been not even just as an athlete, never been in a college wrestling room at any level, as a coach, as an athlete, or, say as a parent that your kid went through it. Every night's a wrestle-off. If any kid thinks that the coaches aren't paying attention to the way things go every night, you're out of your mind. I mean, I know our coaches openly said it, so I didn't mean to completely hijack this topic here, but it was just something that came to mind.
Yep, something that needed to be said. With that being said, let's move on. We got a long, extensive list here of recruiting updates and a couple coaching changes. So, Mason, why don't you get started on this? Yes.
First of all, most important thing of the entire freaking podcast, happy belated birthday to you, sir, Tristan Warner, born Triz. How old are you now? 26?
26, that's right.
26.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Little over 26 years ago, the world changed forever. The birth of a devilishly handsome and hysterically funny human being that I am lucky enough to call my friend. Happy birthday, bud.
Thanks, man. I'm blushing. You can't see on the Skype because we're just, we're not video calling, but got a little blush going. So thank you.
It's all right. We can make it in emoji form when we release this podcast. Rolling on into recruiting news. So the biggest one for sure, Sammy Sasso, the number 2 senior in Pennsylvania, the number 1 ranked guy in the country this weight class. He's going to Ohio State. He's crossing the state line. Just adding to the list of guys they have on the roster as well as incoming recruits they have. I think for Sasso, that's an awesome fit. Obviously it would have been awesome to see him stay in state, but I don't think any of his final schools were ones that were in state. He was looking at Virginia Tech. He was looking at Ohio State. And I know those were 2 of the big ones. I think Nebraska was in there. So I think Ohio State's a great fit for Sasso in a lot of different manners. Within Pennsylvania, Penn State commit here. So Brody Teske, who's ranked 6th in the country at 120. He's the number 34 overall recruit in the country. He's won 3 Iowa State titles. He's taken 2nd and 3rd at UWW cadets the past couple of years. So that's just yet another really big name, high profile recruit for Penn State. The rich get richer, I suppose. So to go along with that, Penn State now has 7 of the top 34 recruits. They've got more than 20% of the top 34 recruits in the country.
Yeah, that's insane. We've talked about that a lot, how Penn State's just chalking up this recruiting class. But I wanted to say also interesting to see an Iowa guy going to Penn State. I mean, we've almost seen a trend in the last couple of years. We talked about it with Michael Kemmerer a little bit in the interview last episode about, we had Spencer Lee, we had Michael Kemmerer, we had Punxsutawney kid, Caleb Young. We've had a couple just recently, Pennsylvania kids, Jeva, Mike Evans going out to Iowa.
Murin,
yeah. We haven't seen a whole lot of the opposite Iowa coming to Penn State. So maybe with the exception of Andrew Long, who kind of took a long road in for a year or two, we haven't seen a whole lot of that. So interesting to see an Iowa kid come to Penn State. If you just told me that a couple weeks ago that, Penn State was one of Brody Teske's top schools, I would have been a little, skeptical, but good to see an Iowa boy coming out this way.
Yeah, for sure. And I think another thing that maybe contribute to that, you hear all the time about the depth that Pennsylvania has. I think that's obviously a part of why Pennsylvania kids leave the state, is there's only so many spots at Pennsylvania schools. So eventually you're going to have to go to a school outside of the state, right? But yeah, I think you're absolutely right. That's kind of an oddity, interesting tidbit. So anyway, more recruits. We got a bunch of them, man. It's recruiting season is in full swing. The number 81 senior in Pennsylvania, Ryan O'Grady from Nazareth, he's headed to Brown up into the Ivy League. The number 90 senior in Pennsylvania, Ryan McGuire, he's headed to Millersville. He's a state medalist from Notre Dame. The number 106 senior, Hunter Michaels, he's a Reynolds kid. Couple times state qualifier, won the Northwest region last year. He's headed to Clarion. The number 25 senior, Tyler Griffiths, to Seton Hill. He's a state runner-up from Southmoreland. Number 37 senior, Caleb Hetrick. He's headed to Clarion along with Hunter Michaels. He's a couple times state medalist from Brookfield. That's kind of a pipeline they're building there.
Yeah, and I was going to say it's good to see some of the some of the best recruits in the state of Pennsylvania, top 100 guys here. You said number 25, number 37. These are some premier guys coming out of the state, and they're going to some PSAC schools. We even saw Seton Hill. That's a Division II school, I believe. So that's a good thing. We're spreading out, some of the talent in Pennsylvania, and not all just, going to Penn State or going to Lehigh. So good to see them spreading out and making some of these other programs in Pennsylvania stronger.
Absolutely. And I think that's an awesome thing for the Clarion program. They've done a great job of building the last few years and establishing a pipeline into a program like Brookville. It's a local program. I think it's in Clarion County, right?
Your guess is as good as mine. You're the District 9/10 guy up there.
District 10. But anyway, although that is District 9 for what it's worth.
It's all the same up there.
But yeah, they're not far down the road from it's not all the same. They are about 60. Well, Clarion's about 65 miles east of Reynolds. Brookville is about 80. But yeah, they're only about 15, 20 miles apart. Just a few exits down on Interstate 80. So that's a good pipeline for the Golden Eagles out there at Clarion to be building. Rolling on with some more recruits. We still got a bunch. Number 30 senior, Francis Dugan. He's headed to Iowa State. That's to add to the list of colleges that the Dugan family has been associated with. Number 36 senior, Chase Anklem. He's headed to Army. He's a couple-time state medalist. Always awesome to see guys going to wrestle for the service academies. That's always something I think is cool. And really respect a decision like that. That's obviously a much bigger commitment than a normal college commitment, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Becoming a part of something even bigger than yourself. That's hats off to all those guys.
Absolutely. The number 43 senior, Seth Colino of Bald Eagle. He's headed to Clarion. So that's our third Clarion commit of this podcast. He's a couple-time state medalist. He'll go from the Bald Eagles to the Golden Eagles. Number 51 senior, Blake Barrick of Big Spring. He's headed to American, along with the number 60 senior, Ben Root of Solanco, headed to American. Solanco also home to Thomas Haynes and Dan Neff.
That's right. That's two pretty tough upper weight-ish District 3 guys, both headed to American. So you have to wonder if those two kind of, maybe had the same recruiting trip or something, or talked to each other, got each other on board. But that's cool to see two tough District 3 guys headed down to D.C. American. Great school there and good program that Teague Moore is heading.
Yep. Pennsylvania native as the head coach. You got to love it. Which, by the way, our kids were wrestling, the club kids were wrestling at North Allegheny, Teague Moore's high school, a couple weekends ago. And it was pretty interesting, looking at their national title banner from when they won in the early 90s. That team, first of all, there's like 5 DeAugustinos on the banner, but it was pretty amazing to sit there and look at, you figure both Moore brothers with Ty and Teague and Brinzer and, all the different guys they had on that team. It's always interesting, you don't necessarily always think about those great teams of the past if it wasn't a school that you're directly affiliated with. But that was just interesting. I thought of, as soon as I saw these guys commit to American, a couple of them committed within like a day or so of me seeing that banner. So that was just interesting. But, one of the best high school teams Western Pennsylvania's seen in probably the last 20, 30 years. So that's, as far as I can tell, that's it for Pennsylvania recruits. There's a couple, throw one more in here. David Carr, who is an Ohio kid, but his dad, Nate, we've talked about the Carr family, the best Pennsylvania wrestling family, inarguably the best college wrestling family ever. David Carr is headed to Iowa State, which is where Nate went to college as well. So not a Pennsylvania kid, but a lot of Pennsylvania ties there, obviously in the Carr family. So awesome to see him following his father's footsteps. I'm sure that the Cyclones and Coach Dresser are excited about it. And this is pure speculation on my part. I have no solid evidence of any kind to back this up. But I wonder, knowing how close Nate and David are, and obviously the brilliant wrestling mind that Nate is, I wonder if it's in the cards that he ends up in some capacity coaching with their RTC out there in Ames.
Good question. I think we all talked about having Nate Carr on the show, so maybe we can interview him and find that out. Also, I think the older son, Nate Carr Jr., who's now a coach at Lockhaven, wrestled at Iowa State for 2 years, so I'm sure that's some sort of a pipeline.
Yep, absolutely. So not a bad call. We should give should give Papa Nate a call, see what he's up to, if he's willing to talk to a couple wrestling junkies. So yeah, that's it for recruiting. Other little notes. This isn't college wrestling associated, but it's worth mentioning. So Adeline Gray, world champion. She was named the assistant women's coach at Wyoming Seminary. So that's awesome, both for wrestling as a sport, for SEM, and for Pennsylvania wrestling. Help continue to grow the sport on the women's side, as well as helping Wyoming Seminary out. So got a pretty good thing going on there at SEM with Coach Green on one end and the women's staff, especially now with Adeline on the other end. Dakota Gear will redshirt for Edinburgh this season. So last podcast, we talked about him in our 184 preview, which now is a moot point. So he will not be in the lineup for the Fighting Scots. Another guy, this isn't Pennsylvania related, but it's a big enough name, again, that's worth mentioning. Joe Smith is redshirting for Oklahoma State. So
That is potentially affecting Pennsylvania news. I mean, Michael Kemmerer, Jason Nolf, they're the two premier guys headlining that weight class, both PA kids. So that's another potential big time opponent who will not be in competition this season. Although was there some speculation that he may go up to 165, Joe Smith? Or
yeah, that's kind of been, you've heard whispers about it.
You do have Chandler Rogers at 65, so it does seem like they'd have to do some shuffling if that was the case. But looks like either way, Joe Smith will not be in the orange singlet this season.
Yeah, so obviously I think the one thing that does say is that Oklahoma State has, I don't want to say thrown in the towel necessarily, but I think they've kind of accepted that it's a 2-horse race for the team title this season with Penn State and Ohio State. Joe Smith's one of their best guys. He's an outside shot at a title contender, for sure, a high All-American guy, as he's proven twice. So, that definitely has a big effect on the team race as a guy that's, was a top 4 finisher last year. So that is it for news and notes. That took a lot longer than our usual news and notes, but hey, it's recruiting season. Big things are happening.
And now we want to transition into what has been hyped up, to me at least, as the best part of this episode, this podcast. So if you've been kind of half listening to me and Mason drone on for the past 10 minutes, you might want to perk up for this one. Super 32 is this weekend, one of the most premier high school tournaments, probably the premier high school tournament, at least for the off season. It and Fargo probably, if we're talking about tournaments that aren't in the regular season, that are the best tournaments. Super 32 has really come into its own as now I think a 2-day tournament, tons of kids in the brackets. Every year you got at least 10 of the top 20 kids at each weight in every bracket. Way tougher than it was when me and you wrestled in it, Mason, but a premier tournament regardless. Getting into that, Mason, you have a pretty good story that you want to share with the PA wrestling fans. So without further ado, please roll out the red carpet, drum roll, let it fly.
So as some people may already know, last year down at Super 32, my backpack got stolen. So the second day of Super 32, wasn't running on a whole lot of sleep for a variety of reasons. The tournament runs long. I get to see some friends and things that don't get to see more than, maybe 2-3 times a year in the wrestling community. So late night, both leaving the arena and then late night, out with friends and everything. So the next morning, this is Sunday morning, right? Struggling a little bit, I'm overly caffeinated already. So I'm already riding the struggle bus from the word go. And I've got my backpack with me. And I've got a bunch of different stuff in it. And one of the things that I had with me was my work computer, because in downtime between sessions and in the hotel and everything, I had gotten some stuff done for a project I had going on at work, right? So I was coaching Logan Macri in his semi match. And you know how crowded the mat sides get there, right? So I'm sitting on the side of the mat, coaching Logan, and my backpack was close enough to me that all I had to do was turn around, just turn around and my hand would hit it. So it couldn't have been any more than about 2 or 3 feet behind me. I got short arms. So match takes place, Logan loses a tough one in overtime. So, you're bummed about that. And I turn around and my backpack's gone. The first thought in my head is like, all right, there were enough kids around here. Somebody probably just picked it up on accident. That stuff happens. And, keep in mind, this bag is embroidered with the Lehigh logo with my name is stitched into the bag, along with the NCAA's. They were the gifts we got for NCAA's my senior year from our coaches, right? So it's got my name stitched in with the Lehigh logo, the NCAA logo from that year in New York City, all that stuff, right? Long story short, the thing never showed up. Somebody just walked out with it. Now, whoever this Good Samaritan was so kind as to drop my car keys out of it, or my truck keys, I guess, out of it, which got...
That I really consider it, I gotta say. Good for them.
Yeah, right? If you're going to be a
hand clapping emoji right there.
If you're going to be a scumbag, at least be a somewhat considerate one. So, yeah, my keys got picked up by, one of the event staff working there and taking the head table. So I got my keys back. Everything else, gonzo. In that bag, like I said, my work computer had a pair of wrestling shoes that I brought down because I always bring an extra pair of shoes in case somebody's shoes blow out or if they need a partner to work out with or to drill with. The shoes that I had with me were the shoes I wore the first time I was All-American, so they were the shoes I would have never gotten rid of. So, great, those are gone. As well as if you scroll way back through my pictures and stuff on Twitter, a pair of custom Nike shoes that were made.
Nobody's going to do that, but just take my word for it. I'm a big shoe guy, and these shoes were heat.
Hang on, I got a picture of them. I'll dig it out. But the point, they could only make them during the Olympics. They did special designs for the Olympics. So I lose all of that stuff, pair of wireless headphones, all this crap, right? So I spend all my free time, between guys wrestling that day, searching, scouring the arena, never find it. So salty the whole drive home. Had to have a conversation with my boss at work about my computer getting stolen, all just super fun stuff, right? Few months go by, I completely forget, not completely forget about it, but just chalk it up as an L and keep moving forward. I'm coaching the club's elementary kids at just a local tournament at Trinity High School, in February. And my phone goes off and I check it and I got some DM on Twitter from some kid I don't know, right? I open it and it's some kid, Michael Pappas is his name, shout out because he's the man, sends me a picture of some random kid rocking my backpack at a tournament in North Carolina. So through this kid, his coach, and a dad of one of the kids on that team, those three together helped me out, and we go through this whole process. They knew who the kid was. So I finally get in touch with the family of the kid that stole my bag, right? Or that has my bag. Allegedly stole it. We'll stick to allegedly. So, I get a hold of the kid, and all I told him, I was like, look, man, I at this point, I don't care. I just want my stuff back, right?
You weren't going to press charges,
I just wanted my stuff back. It's, especially like I said with the wrestling shoes that I had in there, and that, that bag, it's a nice backpack. It was something that, our coaches gave to us. There's a lot of sentimental value to it. The kid was trying to say that he bought it from someone. I'm like, look, you're not going to buy a bag embroidered with somebody else's name on it. I wasn't born yesterday, bud. So this kid just was not cooperative. There ended up having to be charges pressed and all this stuff. But the end result, man, through all of this very confusing and very bizarre sets of circumstances, my backpack, that very same backpack, is sitting about 3 feet away from me right now. I got it back. I got that pair of wrestling shoes and that pair of Nike shoes back. So this weekend, that backpack will make its triumphant return to Greensboro, North Carolina. I will not leave it. It will never enter the arena. You can bet your life on that.
That is incredible. I really hope there's some sort of special entrance and maybe some sort of, intermission where they can bring that backpack out on a silver plate and maybe play some triumphant music or something, because that's an incredible story. It's like Homeward Bound, the incredible journey home, and Mason's Lehigh backpack with shoes and all finally made its way back.
What a bizarre dude! I still can't believe that some kid that, again, I still haven't met him in person. Some kid I didn't know at all, recognized the bag, recognized my name, knew who I was, all this other stuff. Just such a wild set of circumstances. And like you said, it is something out of Homeward Bound, which great movie, by the way, childhood favorite. So yeah, that was Super 32 last year. Was not that Sunday at Super 32 was not good. Not a good day for Mason.
Well, let's hope Super 32 goes a lot smoother for our all of our PA wrestlers and all of our recruits, PA recruits, kids going to PA schools, all of that. It's going to be a great tournament. I'm sure you can get all the coverage online. We'll definitely be recapping in our next episode. So best of luck to everyone involved with Pennsylvania wrestling that will be down in Greensboro this weekend.
Yes, absolutely. Just to echo everything you said, good luck to all those guys. Good luck to all the Pennsylvania coaches recruiting. Hopefully you guys, if you haven't already, snag some really high-level guys.
Just don't snag anyone's backpack. Yes,
please don't. Please don't. It's not okay. So, next little random note here. United World Wrestling, the president of United World Wrestling released a list of the top 5 wrestling hotbeds in the world, right? So Dagestan, an area over in Russia, is number 1. Ossetia, which is another area in Russia, is number 2. An area in Mongolia with Mazandaran. I'm sure I butchered that. I apologize. I don't mean to be insensitive or anything. But anyway, an area in Mongolia was number 3. Lo and behold, what was number 4?
The Keystone State.
Yes, sir. Let's go. Pennsylvania wrestling on the world level. Number 5 to boot for the entire country was Oklahoma, which I found interesting. But
you say country or world?
I said for the sake of the country.
Are you saying Oklahoma was number 5 in the world on that same list, right behind Pennsylvania?
Yeah.
Okay, so they kind of leapfrogged, Jersey, Ohio, California, and just kind of slid Oklahoma in there.
Yeah, which, I guess if you really go back and think about it, maybe on a world
I almost think Iowa on a world level would be higher than Oklahoma, but what do I know?
Yeah, I don't know, man. It could be the fact that, you got John Smith, you got Kenny Monday, both Oklahoma natives, Coleman Scott, a lot of those, those Okie State guys, they're training.
Yeah, Jamil Kelly, Cormier, you got a bunch of guys that were on the world team. Yeah, I could see it, but.
Well, and you figure Oklahoma State had that ridiculous streak. They got snapped in 2016 of some absurd number of Olympic games that they had a wrestling representative. So I can kind of understand it, but the moral of the story is Pennsylvania, a world-renowned hotbed for wrestling. So that is awesome and well-deserved.
Yeah, so next time someone tries to say Pennsylvania isn't the best wrestling state, you can tell them, well, they're not only the best wrestling state, but they're also the number 4 region, if you will, in the whole world.
Not bad. So more specifically, to get into college wrestling here, so updates on the NWCA All-Star Classic and who will be competing there. So Pete Renda will be in the event at 184. He will be wrestling Drew Foster of Northern Iowa, and I just really hope Foster breaks out the Jeff Gordon shirt.
And the Crocs, please. I might actually have to tweet him and ask, just because, like I said, he won my swag bracket over the last spring, and had to give him a Twitter shout-out. Still haven't given him the physical bracket yet, but, through Twitter, the Twitter sphere I did, it was his to take, so I might have to, ask him on a serious note, please break out the Jeff Gordon shirt.
Yeah, and don't get us wrong. We are absolutely 100% rooting for Pete Renda to put on a show wrestling Foster, but Foster's got style, man.
Oh, yeah. And you can't teach that.
No, you can't. At heavyweight, Nick Neville's Penn State heavyweight All-American last year will be wrestling Arizona State's Tanner Hall. Hall took 3rd last year at NCAA's. Neville's, I want to say, took 5th.
Yep.
So that ought to be a fun match. Both of those guys are pretty active heavyweights. They'll score a good amount of points, especially comparatively for a heavyweight match. Other All-Star matches, maybe not related to Pennsylvania guys, but these are just guys that are fun to watch, man. 33 will be Mitchich from Michigan and Seth Gross from South Dakota State.
And that's is that a 1 and 2 matchup?
That's a 1 and 2. That's a fun one. Those are the matches you hope to have.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a fascinating matchup to me. Completely different styles. Mitchich, has spent so much time training overseas. In a lot of ways, he actually wrestles more like a European than an American.
I was going to say, he's definitely a neutral guy. He's got some really slick stuff on his feet, and I feel like Seth Gross, obviously really good on his feet too, but he's, the majority of his points and the majority of his wow factor would come from his top work. So, yeah, you're right. Interesting style matchup.
Yep. At 197, another 1-2, Colin Moore from Ohio State, and Jared Hott from Virginia Tech. So that'll be a fun one, those two. I think Moore actually decked him in the first period for third at Nationals. Got him with some kind of a dump, rolled him up and stuck him. So I'm sure Hott is he's raring to go for a rematch. So that'll be a fun one. Again, anytime you get a 1 versus 2, it'll be a good time. At 49, Matt Kolodzic from Princeton. He'll be wrestling in his home gym. That's always cool to see. And Max Thompson, another Northern Iowa guy. That should be a fun one. And then my personal favorite matchup of this whole dual meet that doesn't involve a Pennsylvania guy, easily 141, Kevin Jack and Bryce Meredith. So on the surface, it's an awesome matchup because they've wrestled a bunch of different times. They're both super funky. They're active. They're a ton of fun to watch.
They're both two-time All-Americans now?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And I mean, high All-Americans, right? Meredith taking a second.
I think Jack 5th as a true freshman, didn't place as a sophomore, and then 4th as a true junior.
No, third last year because he beat Meredith
you're right,
for
he pinned
third.
him. That's right. I couldn't remember who pinned who in a defensive pin. And then Bryce Meredith didn't place 2 years ago, took second as a sophomore, and then took 4th as a junior.
So those two are a ton of fun to watch anytime they meet up. But what's fun about that matchup is how much deeper it goes, right? So for those who don't know, Bryce Meredith originally was at North Carolina State, and he transferred out, at least in part due to the fact that, at least from what I've been told, I could be off with this, but he transferred out in part due to the fact that that Kevin Jack was going to be the guy, that he didn't see himself being the guy there, at 141. So he transferred back to Wyoming. He's from Wyoming. And that's another thing. Both of these guys are from completely off the reservation wrestling states. Meredith from Wyoming, Jack from Connecticut. Neither one of those are traditional powers, right? Mm-hmm. So they're teammates at North Carolina State for, I think, less than a year.
1 year, yeah, if that.
Right? So they're teammates down there. They end up being guys that, and they're still friends to this day, guys that are competing to win a national title. So that is just a wild storyline. I think that's the kind of thing that if you scripted it, you saw it in a TV show or a movie, you go, that would never happen.
Yeah, and it's also worth mentioning, I don't think we mentioned it, but 2 years ago at NCAAs, they met up in the round of 16, I think. I want to say Meredith was like a 14 seed and Jack was like a 3.
Yep.
Something like that. They met up, and it was a big upset that Bryce Meredith, on his, big upset streak from a 14 seed into the NCAA finals, he picked off his former teammate Kevin Jack, almost like you said, like in a movie scripted scene where you go up against your old teammate in a match you're not supposed to win and somehow pull it out. And then last year, the two of them were both high seeds and ended up wrestling for third. I want to say Bryce Meredith was winning or it was tied, and he, in a typical Bryce Meredith way, in a crazy scramble, he usually comes out on top or at least gets some kind of stalemate, but Kevin Jack kind of sat back on him. Ref called a pretty quick defensive pin, so Jack got that one. So now, I'm not sure how many times they've ended up wrestling each other now, but at least at NCAAs, they're 1-1.
No. It's Meredith's 2-1 against him because Meredith beat him on the front side last year too.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yep, it just keeps getting deeper.
Yeah, that'll be a fun one for a lot of different reasons. Plus, those two guys, they just, every time they wrestle, they just put it on the line. So,
not to mention, they keep drawing each other at the NCAA tournament. How about that?
Yeah, what are the odds
they're
of
doing it on purpose, yeah.
Just keep making it run a little bit deeper.
Yep, keep the nemesis, the rivalry going.
Yep. So rolling on, we got our 197 preview, next to last weight. Some of the big fellas up here. So Matt McCutcheon, who we have an awesome interview with. You'll be hearing that in a little bit. Great kid. 3-time national qualifier. He's been really close to being on the podium. He's had, the types of seasons, the types of wins that are indicative of an All-American. Unfortunately, hasn't gotten it done at the tournament yet, but he's ranked 4th in the country. He actually doubles as a catcher on the Penn State baseball team, as a fun fact. So, awesome kid. Kiski area native, so home state kid, wrestling for Penn State. Excited for him. The next highest ranked guy is Frank Mattiace, who wrestles for the Penn Quakers. He is ranked 14th. He's a national qualifier. He won EIWAs last year, went 2-2 at NCAA. So that's a guy that's got a few wins at the national tournament under his belt. I know that Coach Reyna and company, they expect to see even more out of Frank this season. Right behind him in the number 15 national slot is Tom Slay from Bucknell. He's been a national qualifier all 3 of his times. He was an EIWA runner-up to Mattiace last year. So Slay's a guy that, again, I'm sure the Bucknell staff, they're excited about him. They're trying to get him on the podium in his last run. And the last guy we have listed here is Jarrett Kasnick from American. He's ranked 20th. He's a Benton native. He's a national qualifier a couple years ago.
Tom Slay, I think he's Du Bois.
No, I'm talking about Kasnick is a Benton native.
Oh, you already, okay. Yep, you're right. He is Benton.
But no, you're good. You're absolutely right. I think you're right with Slay being a Du Bois native. So Kasnick's a qualifier. He was a University Nationals champ in the spring, which, is not an easy thing to win. So Kasnick down there with Coach Teague Moore, second time we've mentioned him this podcast. See if he can make that jump up to a top 10, top 8 guy this season.
Yeah, and 197 is one of those weights where it's kind of wide open. I feel like as the season goes on, different guys will emerge. It always seems like they do at any weight, really, but especially at 197, these big boys. Sometimes freshmen come out of nowhere, or guys jump up a weight midway through the year. It just seems like every year, 197, you've got a couple head scratchers in the blood round. So it's like, who will be next? Who will be the next guy to emerge here at 197? Hopefully, we got some Pennsylvania natives doing that. I know one that comes to mind, Phil Sprinkle from Dallastown, who wrestled at Lock Haven, was in the blood round a year or two ago. And it was somebody that, you were kind of confused that he was even in the NCAA tournament. And then there he was, either in the blood round or the round before it. And it was just like, all right, who's going to be the next guy to step up at 197? Because that weight's pretty wide open, at least in terms of getting on the podium. Maybe not, I don't know if anyone's dethroning Colin Moore, but, getting on the podium at that weight, it's open.
Yeah, I think part of that is as you get higher and higher up in the weights, there just aren't, statistically, it's a proven thing. There aren't as many points scored in matches. So anytime things are played a little bit closer to the vest, it gets easier and easier for guys to steal matches. So, if you're wrestling, I know for me at 33, if you got guys A and B, and one is substantially better than the other, even if guy B sneaks a takedown or even a couple of them, odds are that's not going to be enough. The separation, because enough points are scored, and the more and more points get scored, it tends to level out, and the better guy kind of rises above. But again, anytime things are played closer to the vest, it becomes a more and more of a one mistake kind of situation. So I definitely think that's part of it, and I think you're absolutely right. There are some guys at 197 and some of those upper weights every year that make the round of 12 or get on the podium, and you go, man, I wouldn't have expected that.
Yeah, so that'll do it for a 197 preview. We've already previewed all of the college teams. Mason, we've listed a couple random miscellaneous topics that we could maybe throw one in at the end of each episode. So to close this one off, as you said, we're still going to talk to Matt McCutcheon here coming up. We got a real good interview with him talking about his last year coming up for Penn State. But one miscellaneous topic you want to spend a couple minutes on. Which one do you want today?
All right, so this one's been bugging me for a while, so I'm going to run with this. Actually, there's kind of two of these that we can roll into one. So there are certain things that, and Tristan, you and I have talked about this, and even in our different experiences, we've had conversations about me not being able to understand certain things that you've talked about and you not being able to understand certain things that I've talked about, right? One of my biggest pet peeves is people, and it can be high school wrestlers, it can be coaches at any level, it can be parents, it can be media personnel, whoever, that discuss certain topics and act as if they understand inside perspective, right? So the analogy that I was actually talking with Jeff Upson about this, our boss here at PA Power Wrestling, the guy that, the founder and everything. And he's a police officer for his day job when he's not doing all the awesome stuff he does for Pennsylvania wrestling, right? you don't understand perspective. He's like, would you ever sit there and presume to understand what it's like as a police officer? Answer is no, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So, and I realize that's a much more serious thing, but at the same time, if you've never gone through a certain set of circumstances, it just really bothers me that people presume to know. And it's one thing, I'm all for having discussion. That doesn't mean things can't be discussed. That doesn't mean you can't be educated about things, right? That you can understand and have an informed conversation, right? But there's a certain level of condescension when people start to act as if, well, I know what that's like. Or they speak about, the decisions that a head coach at a college program makes, right? And they say, well, I know what he was trying to, I know what was going through his head. No, you don't, right? No, you don't. You're speculating.
Yeah. I was going to say, Mason, I'm not sure exactly what specific example you're going for here, but I would say the biggest one that comes to mind that really grinded my gears in college wrestling. So many people, whether it's, sometimes it could be literally your dad. Sometimes it could be your coach or like like a family member, really anybody, a friend, anyone who hasn't been there and hasn't been on that stage or that level just to critique. There's certain people that you always feel like when you go out there, maybe you wrestle a bad match or you make a dumb mistake in a match. There's certain people that can tell you what you did wrong and correct you, and you'll never bat an eyelash. You'll take it to heart and you'll accept it for what it is. But there's certain people that were always those type, telling you what you did wrong, always there to point out your mistakes, but they were people who never were under that same set of circumstances in their life. Never. Not even in a similar situation, maybe in a different sport. So that was always something that got to me, people trying to nitpick and tell you this, and this is what you should have done and this, and this. But if they weren't there, that's something that really got to me, even though maybe it shouldn't have. I don't know if that's what you were going for, but
no, you're absolutely right. And so that is one manifestation of it. Another one is publicly, whether it's on social media or through media outlets, somebody who didn't go through it, right? So, okay. I'll draw from personal experience. I wrestled in the round of 12 in the blood round 3 times in my college career, right? I know what that round is like. I know it in and out. I know what winning in it's like. I know what losing in it's like. I've experienced both sides of that coin. Okay. I have heard people discuss, and I'm not going to name names, but I've heard people discuss this both in personal conversations as well as very public platforms, discuss this as if they understand what it's like. And I'm sorry, but it's just you don't. Because how do you describe the feeling and everything, all the emotion that goes with a scenario where in a span of 7 minutes, so say, your average match probably lasts about 10 in real time, in a 10-minute window, right? It's a binary thing. Either A, you win the match and it's literally a lifelong dream.
Life-changing win.
It absolutely is. Or B, you get beat, match is over, for some guys, career is over, and a dream dies. And everything, all the emotion and just everything that goes with it, people sit there and go, oh, yeah, I'm sure I know what that situation is like. No.
And it's a squiggle on your wrestling legacy to go out in the blood round like that, especially, like you said, if you're a senior. That's it. Like you said, we talked about it multiple times. Your career is likely defined by how you do at that 3-day tournament. And if, you lose in that round, you could tell people I was in the blood round. But, at the end of the day, if you weren't an All-American, you're the same as the guy who went 0-2 almost. So.
Yeah, and that's incredibly unfortunate because that's a disservice to the guys that make the round of 12, especially more than once, that never get on the podium. But that's the way of the world, right? But I guess just this whole topic, it really gets under my skin. Some of the things that are said publicly about athletes, people criticize and they bash athletes. You and I have talked before on here about what life is like as a Division I athlete. No, don't even say Division I, as a college athlete, right? That with going to class and all the different workouts and the travel schedule and everything that you go through as a college wrestler, it's a lifestyle unlike any other. And if you haven't experienced it, then presume
Don't criticize. That's the best way to say it.
Yeah, then presuming to know is it's just really frustrating. Quite frankly, it's arrogant.
Yep. So we don't take up too much more time on this topic. I'll summarize it with this. You always hear this. You were just talking about the blood round, going out there to be the wrestling, outsider, maybe someone who didn't even wrestle, the parent or whatever, to just tell you something like, you should have opened up more. I can just hear that. You know what I mean? It's like
absolutely
like just telling somebody something that they should have done in a match where it's like the ultimate match of your entire career, that someone like who has never been there, never even done a sport like that, never been in that high stress of a sporting situation. It's just, it's the same thing when you watch like the Olympics and you're watching like the gymnasts, go out there and do something like, who am I to sit there and tell them, oh, you should have done this better. So that's where it gets me. But I don't know if you had anything else to add to that, but
no, the only other thing I would say is, and you and I are not exempt from this, right? I don't know what it's like to wrestle in the NCAA finals.
I'm sure I'm guilty. I mean, I'll sit there and watch, college or pro football and say, blah, blah, blah is awful. He needs to get benched or this, and this. But, I've never been there. So, yeah, I'm guilty as sin.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the thing that, one of my best friends, Nate Brown, or, Darian, those are guys that I know of that are very dear friends of mine that have wrestled on the stage. But just because I've been close to it, close to guys that have done it, it doesn't mean And then the guys that are wrestling at Worlds and the Olympics, I don't have a clue what it's like. I don't have a clue. You and I both had very high-level careers, but that still doesn't mean that we know what that's like. And I guess I'll close this topic with, I would implore anybody, before you comment and try to criticize kids or athletes, there's world level guys, they're not kids. Before you criticize them, understand very clearly that you don't know what that situation is like.
Amen.
So, with that, let's go to the phone. We got Matt McCutcheon coming in, so we'll roll on to that right now. Welcoming onto the program now, we have a Kiski area native. He was a Pennsylvania State champ in high school. He's now been a 3-year starter for the Nittany Lions at Penn State. He's been close to All-American a couple different times. I know he's gunning for that this year. The number 4 ranked 197-pounder in America, Matt McCutcheon. Matt, thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
So, I guess the first question, always the same thing, but, how are things out in Happy Valley? How are things with you, with your guys' team? We're only a couple weeks away from the start of official competition and everything. So how are things going?
Yeah, things are going great. We just started official practice recently. Things are starting to pick up. Things are going well with our team. Everybody's where they're supposed to be, getting down the weight. And I know we're just preparing for the year. We're going to have another fun year, hopefully, and hopefully everybody stays injury-free. But we're excited with where we're at and excited about competing this year.
Matt, this is your senior year now. What would you say you're most excited for going into this season, both individually and from a team standpoint?
I'm excited to finally go out there and get my goal individually. Like Mason said earlier, I came up kind of short the past 2 or 3 years, and I'm just excited about going out there and finally going after something that I want. And as far as a team, I mean, we're excited to go out there and compete again. We're always having fun, and just looking forward to going out there and wrestling new guys and other than the same guys in our wrestling room. So, it's obviously my senior year, and right now I'm just trying to enjoy every moment that we have. I know I'm going to miss it when I'm done, and I know Zane probably feels the same way. So we're just going out there looking to have fun and give it everything we got.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think both of us remember the exact same feeling. It gets pretty surreal when you realize you got one last run.
Yeah.
So with your guys' team, obviously there's a lot of you guys are returning, a lot of points from the national tournament returning, a lot of guys that are pretty much known commodities. The 5 guys that that won titles last year. Yourself as a top 4 guy right now. Nick Neville's at heavyweight and everything. But there's some, I don't want to say gaps, but some weights where you don't have guys that are necessarily those top tier names right now. How's the lineup kind of coming together with 125 and 33 and those different weights that you've had to replace some familiar faces? 41 Jimmy graduates after a guy that was a 4-year starter and an All-American for you.
Yeah, I think things are coming along great. We have a couple tough guys. We have Corey Keener, Tom Gianangeli. He's a Franklin grad at 133. We have a few guys at 125 who'll be battling for a spot. George Carpenter again at 133 as well. At 141 we have a few guys that are trying to fight for a spot. Cortez and Nick Lee will be battling up at that weight. So, even last year we had George and Tristan Law wrestling for us at 133, and our team's behind those guys. They worked their butts off in the room, and they gave it everything out on the mat. So, as far as what our team could ask for, they gave us everything. So we're always supporting them. And as far as 141, I think that we're going to have a tough guy, whoever wins that Wrestle-Off. They're both very good, and I think they're going to shock a lot of people this year. So it'll be fun to watch them go out there and compete and actually get to wrestle a full season.
Matt, looking back at you individually, so we talked a little bit about your career leading up to this point. You had, 3 NCAA tournament appearances now. You fell short of getting on the podium, but you had some solid tournaments. How do you approach your final season mentally? It's always an interesting thing when you're going into your last season. Does that add more pressure, or what is your mental approach to just get the monkey off your back and find your way onto the podium this year?
I think the mental approach stays the same for me. I went out there and I had it in my mind that I could win the thing, and I have the same approach this year. I lost the 2 top-ranked guys right now last year, obviously, but I feel like I can beat both of them, and I just want to go out there and wrestle my hardest. I was kind of disappointed in myself with what happened last year and the years before, but looking into putting that in the past is going to be the most important thing and the thing that I've done already. So, it's a new year, and I just got to go out there and relax and enjoy it and have fun. And I think that's when I compete my best. So that's going to be my game plan for this year.
You mentioned having fun, and I'm sure you guys are aware of this as a team. One of the things that seems to be a national conversation surrounding the Penn State program is that you guys look across the board like you're having just a ton of fun as a team, not only in the room every night, but, before, last year, before the dual meet in Stillwater, the number 1, 2 teams in the country, and you guys are hanging out on the mat, just laughing and fooling around. Where does that attitude kind of come from? What do you think enables you guys to have so much fun and to be so loose as a group, even at the absolute highest level?
I think that comes from the top. Our coaches do a good job of making sure we're going out there and just relaxing. We're doing what we love. Not many people get to go out there and do everything that they can for the sport that they love or whatever they enjoy doing. So we just got to be grateful for the opportunity and go out there and relax, because you compete your best when you're relaxed, you're not tense, things like that. And I think our team overall is just kind of, we're very close, so I think that helps. We're out there competing for our best friends, and I think that's pretty important for a team aspect, and it helps us relax because we know we got each other's back. If one guy gets hurt, we had a guy get hurt last year in that match, and we kind of picked him up, and we all wrestled great at the end. I heard going through the end of the match. Like I said, George Carpenter, he gave everything he had in that match and ended up saving a few team points for us, which was huge. And then the ball just started rolling after that. So, I think it's just the kind of attitudes that our team takes towards in practice and when we're competing. And I think it stems from the top.
Matt, we want to keep this interview focused on you for the most part, but I have to ask, like you just talked about that injury. Nick Suriano leaving the team, that's the whole buzz of the year. I mean, at least of the summer, everyone's talking about Suriano, the rumors, and then is he going to leave? Now he's going to leave. Now he's not. And then he does leave. I mean, you guys are such a close-knit team, and everyone seems like they're such good friends. You guys all, like you said, get along so well and are having so much fun out there. Did that whole rumor mill going around and that whole situation, did that affect anything, or did you guys just, respect his wishes and then regroup and stay focused on the season?
Yeah, I mean, when he was here, he did what he had to do and is a huge part of the team, and we respect him for that. And the fact that he wanted to transfer to Rutgers, I mean, whatever's best for him is, the ultimate goal. I mean, we're a team, but we're out there competing by ourselves, and if he thinks that's the best place for him, then we wish him well. As far as that affecting our team, I don't think that that affected us at all. I mean, we have guys who are ready to step in, and they're going to compete their hardest just like every other guy at every weight does. And we're going to have whoever is starting for us at 125 back throughout the whole season. And I think that's going to be, we're just going to pick up from where we left off and keep on having fun while out there competing.
So one of the things I feel like, or I think pretty obviously, has enabled you guys to have so much success, the recruiting classes that you guys are able to bring in every year has just, they've been bonkers, to be honest. What's it like when you guys get these recruiting classes in and you get such high level guys coming into the room? When those guys come in, is there still that big learning curve, or because they're still young, even though they're at such a high level? Do those guys spend a lot of time with you and with the program before they, come to campus for the start of the fall semester? And just what do you think attracts them to Penn State more than anything?
I think it's our culture that attracts them. We have a great team, like I said, to be around. We have great coaches, great facility, and alumni support. I mean, we're very lucky up at Penn State with all the things we have, but usually when we get the guys to campus and we get them around our team and we're hanging out and doing things while they're on their trip or recruiting trip, I think that's what really gets them. I mean, obviously we have some top-notch coaches and we've been doing well in the past, but I think that the main thing is just getting them around our guys. They just want to be around our guys. I know that's how I was when I was getting recruited, and a lot of guys who are coming up now, they get around our team, and then next week they're committing. So I think that has a huge part in it. As far as them training and the learning curve, I think that it's pretty important that they get in the room as soon as they can. So a lot of guys in the summer are up there training with us, taking summer classes. And then there's some guys who can come up through the ROTC program when the high school season's not going on, and that helps a lot. But I think just being on the mat and we have some of the best competition in the country right in our wrestling room, so getting around those guys and getting a feel, starting to learn the things that we do helps them out a lot. And eventually they transform or become a better wrestler and start competing at a high level pretty quickly.
Are there any particular matches, aside from the NCAA tournament and the postseason, obviously, that you're especially excited for this year? I mean, you guys have, I think, Iowa coming to Penn State this year. You got Ohio State, which, the buzz of the summer is people, after Suriano leaves, you got people all over the place trying to say that Ohio State can contend with Penn State. You guys are wrestling Lehigh in the brand new arena that Mason could probably say what the name of it is, because I can't remember right now. Is there any... There you go, the PPL Center. You got any particular match or dual meet or anything like that you're especially excited for, this being your senior year?
I'm always excited to wrestle in the BJC. We do it once a year, and this year we're bringing in Iowa. It's always fun to wrestle. The energy usually gets a little bit higher when we have a big team come in, which is always exciting. And then Ohio State, I'm really looking forward to. Obviously they're going to be pretty tough this year, and I think it's going to be a fun match for the teams and the fans because there's going to be a lot of scoring going on, which is always exciting. I think I'm also excited just to get another shot before getting into Big Tens and Nationals. The guy from Ohio State, Colin Moore, he's fun to wrestle, and he's always attacking, and it's fun to get in scrambles with. So I think that'll be a fun one for me personally. But I think we treat every match the same, no matter who we're wrestling as well. So it'll be excited just to get the season started in early November.
You know, the last thing that I kind of had in my head that wanted to ask you about coming into this. So the video that you and Chenzo came out with the whole Penn State, Oklahoma State thing, I got to ask, how did that come to be?
You beat me to it, Mason. That was my next question, too. Best thing I've seen hit the internet in a long time.
It was incredible. It was awesome.
So we kind of mess around with each other when, like, just talking about what Flo says, because it's just funny to us sometimes. I mean, they do a great job promoting the sport and getting fans excited, which is awesome. So we just enjoy what they say sometimes. And we were actually at a camp together, and we were sitting in the hotel just talking about it, saying we should do it. So we decided to come up with a lineup and talk about the things that we'd say, and it actually turned out better than what we hoped. So the guys took it well, though. I mean, we're kind of worried that they wouldn't laugh about it, but they were great with it, so it ended up turning out pretty well. We hopefully got some laughs out of it.
Definitely did. You got some laughs out of me and Mason, I can tell you that. We were talking about it on one of the episodes earlier. That was good stuff.
Yeah, that was...
Thank you.
That was incredible. Anytime somebody can have self-deprecating humor like that, that was awesome. That was so funny to see.
It's rare to see these days, so yeah, it was a nice refresher to see, especially coming from the best team in the country.
Yeah, that's good.
So, I guess at this point, kind of leave it up to you, man. If you got anything else for us, feel free. Anything about Penn State or that you just want to get out there about you personally, year 5 coming up. I think I'm pretty sure I saw something about you were on the baseball team at Penn State too. So I don't know if you want to get anything about that out there, but, we'll kind of give you the floor if there's anything you want to, anything you want to say.
Yeah, as far as the baseball team, I just was very lucky to get an opportunity to go out there and play a sport that I loved in high school and I enjoyed playing. So, I'm just getting another opportunity to try and have fun again. And I've been over there a little bit, just stopping in with the team and participating in some practices. And I just enjoy playing the sport. So it's very lucky to get the opportunity because not many people do. So I'm just I'm pursuing wrestling, and that's my main focus. But when wrestling's done, then I'll go over to the baseball field and see if I can pick it up or help the team out in any way possible. So I'm pretty excited about. But other than that, we're just excited about the season, and we're working hard to try and have another successful year and get some more wrestling fans out there.
Absolutely, man. And I think I speak for all of us when I say that we're excited to watch you guys, and we're excited. I'm excited to watch you compete one last time. We've been you and I wrestled around each other a lot since the time we were young kids, way back with the Dragons, if you can even remember those days.
Yeah, those were the fun days with those baby blue warm-ups and stuff.
How about it, man? So. Yeah, I'm excited for you, dude. Really, really rooting for you to get on the podium, make the most of year 5 and just to get to see you and your teammates have fun.
Well, thank you. It was nice to catch up with you a little bit. Hope everything's going well with you as well.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Good luck to you, Matt. Keep making PA Power proud.
All right, thank you.
All right, take it easy, man.
All right, we'll see you.
And that's going to wrap it up for us at the PA Power College Podcast. Thanks for dialing in. I'm Tristan Warner. Find me on Twitter at WarnTriz. And Mason Beckman, as always, follow him on Twitter at Beck_Diggity. Visit PAPowerWrestling.com for all your wrestling needs. And be sure to follow us on Twitter at PAPowerWrestle. And go ahead and send us a friend request on Facebook. Until next time, stay classy, wrestling fans.